Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Bootcamp Blueprint, the place where personal trainers go to grow their fitness business. Now, I'm super excited because we have an absolute legend of the industry here. This person is the founder of the Campbell Media Group, who were the winner of the 2018 Best Social Media Marketing Agency across Australia and New Zealand. And that's great anyway, being an expert on social media. The thing is, this person's background is in fitness, and he's actually one of my early mentors. Whether he knows it or not, I've been following him for a long time. I watched all his Facebook videos. I joined all his Facebook groups. I listened to every podcast he did. I listened to him on other people's podcasts. His old podcast was my go-to in the gym. You know, whenever I'd going driving to the gym to teach a class or to teach a PT session, I'd be listening to this person's podcast, getting tips on how to grow the business. And I essentially copied it. Well, I modeled everything he did. And it's a big part of where I am today. So huge honor to podcast with this person. So let me introduce the one and only Mr. Brett Campbell. Brett, how are you?
Mate, I'm fantastic. That's extremely humbling to hear that. And it was always good to know that all those hours I spent talking to a microphone never went to waste. So, mate, great to see. I love action takers.
At least there was one person listening to it, right?
That's it. That's it.
Hey, Brett, I like to start all my podcasts off with a quote or mantra that inspires you or fires you up. Have you got one for us?
Mate, something extremely simple is done is better than perfect. And that's an ethos I've followed through with, you know, every business, every brand, basically everything that I've done, you know, whether I'm cooking dinner or I'm, or I'm, drawing a picture or I'm trying to organize a holiday or anything, I'm trying to build a business or I'm trying to create a new brand, I'm writing a new book, or, you name it. I think the ethos of done is better than perfect is a great reminder. And, to that point, if for these people who call themselves perfectionists, if they were perfectionists, they'd realize that there's no such thing as perfection anyway. So, I mean, that's another conversation, but it's the done is better than perfect, better to get it out there to the marketplace, than to be sitting on the world's best kept secret.
Love that so much. I'm a huge fan of that myself. And I just a 2 cents of my take on it, like perfect, as you mentioned, Brett, perfection doesn't exist. So you've got two options. You can either do it or you wait till it's perfect and then it's never going to get done. And if it's never going to get done, it's never going to help anyone. At least if you do it, hey, it may not be perfect, but there's going to be people out there that you can help. And also just from the personal side of things, hey, if you do it, even if it sucks, great. At least you've learned something from it and you can make your next one better. If you don't even get it out there, you're just dead in the water. So I love that side of things there. Now, Brett, what I'd like to talk about today, I've been following your journey for years now, and it's been an amazing one, and it's super inspiring. What I'd like, if for the next 25, 30 minutes, if you could simply share that with my listeners. A lot of them are going to be where you were when you started, where they're personal trainers, they're either working at a gym, they've got their outdoor boot camp going, they may even have a small studio, but they're struggling to, if not struggling to make ends meet, just struggling to get to that next level. They're full-time in the fitness industry. It's going okay, but we're putting in all this work. And really, if we put that much work and energy into any other industry, we'd be the king of the world. We'd probably make more money if we put all that time and energy into McDonald's. How can we be successful in the fitness industry? So start wherever you want to start. Tell us whatever you want to tell us, and let's get into it.
Shit. All right, here we go. What I want to do as well is obviously, because at the heart, I'm a teacher, right? I love teaching, I love sharing, I love contributing. So, I think there's always value in not just hearing someone's stories, but as a story evolves, the main impactful and I guess you'd say the wisdom that is drawn from each event that occurs. So I've had the opportunity to be able to sit down, and I mean, we all have this, but I actually took the opportunity to sit down and reflect on my entire life from, age 4, every single year, all the way up until, me today being 19. No, I'm not 30 to now being, my, mid to late 30s. And it's I think it's an exercise that everyone should do first and foremost is that whole reflection period, because that's where you gain the most valuable insights. So for me, it started, like you said, it was 11 years ago now. I moved from New Zealand to Australia, right? So the first big lesson there is I took a big leap, right? I had another entire life. I was a cabinet maker by trade, so I got kicked out of high school, fell into a trade. It was the only job in my town. I come from a real little, small, poor town, and there wasn't a lot happening. And I was this trapped entrepreneur, right? So I was a trapped entrepreneur and I knew it from a very early age. I had all these entrepreneurial tendencies, and I was doing things outside of the box that no one around me was doing, and it was just coming intuitively, and I was sort of just rolling with it. But it took for me to something, just like where I'd wake up and almost be crying in the morning to go, I need a change. In industry, having have the privilege of coaching and mentoring thousands of trainers over the years, that I feel that there's so many trainers who are stuck in this bubble of what they think they can do. And I'll get to that in a minute. But 11 years ago, I started as a big box gym trainer, right? So I was working at Fitness First. I was trading time for money. Luckily for me, I always seemed to have the gift of the gab, as they call it. My mum always said I could talk underwater. So I had the ability to be able to communicate with people effectively, to be able to, generate clients. So I started trading time for money, got to a point where I had a full roster of clients. And as you said, man, as a personal trainer, when you got 40 hours a week, you feel like you're working 400 hours a week. It's not just the physical, and it's not like when I was a cabinet maker, I was lifting up sheets and fitting kitchens and windows and all that stuff. That was physically demanding, but the personal training side was just very mentally demanding. And I didn't realize I was becoming part-time counselor and psychologist and, best friend and wingman and every aspect that came along with personal training, right? But again, I realized that there was more to this thing than trading time for money. And I was like, because I've always had a desire to be rich, right? I've always wanted. And I think that's something as well, a big highlighted point here is it's okay to want a lot of money, right? It's okay to want a lot of money. And I want a lot of money. Just the other side of that is, in order to get a lot of money, you've just got to serve a lot of people, right? That just goes hand in hand. So for people to go, it's not all about the money. It's like, well, if you just want to help people, go down to the soup kitchen, and that'll be the most humbling thing that you can do, just to help people. Go and serve people for free, right? However, that's another conversation as well. So trading time for money, and I was like, you know what? One thing I identified though, and this is something I want to highlight for a lot of trainers, because I'm sure there's a lot of trainers listening and following you now, is there's a natural progression that I see, and I've seen it a lot, and it's happening quite rapidly right now in the industry itself. And I put my hand up because I had the same mentality when I first started. So when I first started my fitness business, I wanted to coach personal trainers on how to build a business. But guess what? I didn't know how to build a bloody business, right? I hadn't built a business. So this desire to want to teach and coach others before I had the runs on the board, like that was something that I knew I wanted to do. But, a dear friend of mine said to me, man, how can you coach trainers when you haven't even run your own fitness business? So I literally, and this is crazy when I say this, but I literally went on and built a fitness business, and I hired trainers. So I had trainers working for me inside Fitness First, and had multiple trainers. I did the small group training, started boot camps, and I did all of that just so I could get the tick on the board, so then I can go and teach people, which was super random. It's like I almost jokingly say I built a fitness company just to prove it that I knew I could do it, so I could teach it. Right? It's an interesting way to look at it, but one of the biggest moments for me was I was trading time for money, feeling exhausted, and I wanted a lot more money, and I wanted to be able to serve a lot more people. And I was walking out to train my clients one evening, and I walked past my flatmate, her computer. She was on her computer scrolling through this document, and she stopped, and it had a picture of a guy standing, and then right next to it, he was in a squatting position. I was like, what the heck is that? And she goes, oh, it's a workout program. I just bought it. Paid $37. I'm like, what the? My first reaction was, why aren't you training with me? You know, like I'm a trainer. You should be giving me the money, right? But then ultimately at the same time, I was like, holy shit, this is the vehicle. Like this guy actually made money while he's sleeping because he was from America, purchased at the time. He would have been in bed at 4 a.m. or something. And I'm like, whoa, this is the vehicle. So I became obsessed, right? And that's a very important word. I became obsessed. I wasn't interested. Because there's a lot of trainers out there right now who are interested in online, and they're interested in building a following, and they're interested in creating courses and online products and, nutrition coaching. But I wasn't interested. I was obsessed, right? There's a freaking clear distinction. I want to highlight that because if you're interested, you're just going to get interesting results. If you're obsessed, right, that is the liquid nitrogen you need under your ass to get you moving. So what that meant was when I got home at 9:30 from training clients after a full day, I'd be on my computer till 3:30, 4 a.m. some mornings trying to learn how to HTML code. But I was like, I need to learn how to do this. I need to build my own sales pages. There was no ClickFunnels or any drag and drop builder back then. I'm like online searching what bracket BR blah 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 means. I'm like, geez, this is a whole new code. Like, how do I make that word go bold? There was no bold button. I had to go into the back HTML and write the code for bold. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm supposed to be a personal trainer, right? And all I want to do is create some online products, so I got in very early in that space, and what that meant was I had to sort of, cut my teeth on a lot of, the development wasn't there from an education point. Now every man and his dog who's a personal trainer is teaching people how to this. And the sad thing for that is, and I probably won't go down this too far, but I know a lot of them, and I've coached a lot of them, and they ain't fucking making that money, and that's probably just my own personal beef there. But it's people need to be aware of they think it's so easy to make money online. It is easy to make money online if you are obsessed, and you'll do whatever you have to do to keep doing whatever you have to keep doing to get the end result, right? So that's the difference. So I became obsessed, uncovered, and at that time Facebook was starting to obviously pop. Right, it was starting to become very popular. I had over 1 billion users, and I'm like, this thing's amazing. Like, you could put a post up and you get like 50 people comment on it. Like, whoa, this is cool. And it got to a point where sorry,
for free in those days as well, right?
Yeah, we capitalized on a lot of free traffic and organic traffic, but where I jumped ahead of most people in that space at the time was I jumped into paid traffic as soon as it was available. I was running ads. Obviously, Facebook ads came out at 2007. It wasn't sort of mainstream till 9, 10, let's call it, because I was still in the sort of beta realm, But when I jumped on, and like for me, my tracking system back then was, did I have more money in my ClickBank seller's account than I had going out of my bank every day. So like, I had no idea. I was just like, yep, this is cool. Put it out there, turn it up. Let's spend a few $1,000s a day. Like, I was just willing to have a crack. And obviously it paid off really well. We went on to build, at that time, one of the fastest growing fitness companies in the country. I had an idea one day. I'm like, so we're getting really good at online, and we're generating leads. Like, we're generating thousands of leads a week, sometimes a day. One of our biggest day, we did something organically and got 12,564 leads in 24 hours, and like, wow. It was just going crazy. And with that, what happened was we're getting a lot of attention and a lot of building a good community. And at the time we were female focused. So, and I mean, there's a huge progression of getting into that, but we went into female focused. I met my now a wife who entered into the fitness industry too at that time, and a lot of the community members were like, oh, why don't you come and train us? Because we had our own local boot camp that we're running at that time. And they're like, why don't you come train us in Canberra? Why don't you come train us in Townsville and Melbourne and Sydney and, all these different suburbs that I'd never even heard of, right? I'm like, oh, interesting. So I had a good idea, and I thought, why don't I just create a sales page and see where these people want to train. We got thousands of people go here, and I was like, oh my God, there's something here. And I had another good idea. I was like, well, let's just create another sales page, right, with some information on it, and I'll sell a franchise, sell locations, because I didn't want to have to run them. I was like, let's just sell locations to trainers, right? And I'll be able to provide all the how-to and how do you run it and how do you run the business, because at that stage, guess what? I'd actually done it, right? That's a big distinction. I'd actually done it. And yeah, mate, we launched. We had hundreds of trainers apply. We brought on 35 new locations within the first 6 months, and we couldn't even keep up. We would have had probably 80 locations in the first 6 months if we could have, because at the time it was only me and a couple of other team members. It was small, and you know, admittedly, put my hand up. I was still quite fresh to business. You know, I was sort of trying to navigate this thing as we were going along, and you know, there wasn't really any people out there that I could model or follow or get advice from. So I was sort of trying to navigate this ship myself. And you know, we went on to create our own supplement range, our own clothing line. We did overseas retreats. You know, what else? We started Academy, because then we started going, well, how do we, because there was a lot of our community were wanting to become a personal trainer. And guess how I came up with that business, right? This is crazy. And this is why I always recommend everyone survey your audience. So we sent out a survey, and you know, to our credit, we sent it out to a large database. We had like close to 5,000 people actually fill out the application, which is very high. And out of that, there was like 35% of these people said yes to, I'd like to become a personal trainer. Wow. I'm like, holy shit, let's start a business where we certify people, right? So we did. So that whole thing again of when I make a decision, I become obsessed about it and get it off the ground very, very quickly. You know, I'm happy to stop and come back to the whole fitness business. And if you want to sort of probe any specific questions around that, because
keep going. I'm taking notes here. I'll do a summary at the end. I'm just loving this story. You keep going. I'll give a summary at the end.
Yeah. So, you know, it got to that point where, it was almost as like we could, and I don't like sort of saying this, it sounds quite braggadocious, but it's certainly not coming from that place. But we were in a spot where we could send out an email and I could have probably sold toothpicks, like fitness toothpicks, you know. And we would never have done that, right? But what that illustrated was, if you build a community of people and you and how we were doing that was we had a Facebook group, right? We had a free Facebook group where Emily and myself, I was a lot more active back in the days there, but Emily and myself were in this community answering everyone's questions. We're creating, you know, low priced workout programs for people to be able to take advantage of, where other people were, you know, selling them for like $100. We were like, well, let's halve that, you know, let's go in at $37 or $47. And we were just consistently wanting to provide value, right? And that was really the big driver. And for me though, like my passion is always, and like I sort of illustrated earlier, was to coach and mentor. At the time, it was fitness professionals, right? Because that's all I really knew how to build. And well, that's the only thing that I technically built. Obviously, my skill set had opened up a whole practices. And I mean, you don't just build a franchise overnight by deciding to build a franchise. There's one thing I always joke about is because I at the heart of everything is I'm a problem solver. So I feel I'm a problem solver, and I secretly love problems because it allows me the opportunity to solve it. Right. And I understand that by having that as my ethos, I'm going to attract a lot of fucking problems, right? I'm going to, just by way of putting that out, going, hey, I love solving problems. Like if I don't want any more problems, I've got to stop saying I love problems. But you know, when a problem happens, it comes hard and fast. When I solve it, I can solve them extremely quickly, right? And I just sort of have that ability to be able to do that. And it sort of lends to this concept where I see the natural progression of so many fitness professionals become a personal trainer. They then build a business. Hopefully it's reputable. They build a business, and they want to coach and mentor others how to do it. Right. And I was sort of on that path. And then what happened was I sort of got a little bit stale of the fitness industry, in the sense of, talking about the same thing day in, day out. Because to build a fitness business, it's not hard, right? There's not a lot of, moving pieces compared to what we've built now the last 2 years with Campbell Media Group. So our digital growth agency, my gosh, building a fitness franchise, a fitness academy, having multiple online products and services and retreats and you name it, live events, that was so much easier than what we're doing now, right? Because the complexity, the layers upon layers, and this is a clear distinction, is I believe most fitness professionals are only in the solopreneur or business mindset, okay? Versus being in am I actually building a company, right? I don't think personal trainers or most fitness businesses, or especially in the ones that I have dialogues with, they don't ask themselves that question of what do you actually want from your fitness business? Like, what do you want? And again, I put my hand up here, man. I was just so fast to doing and building that I didn't even stop and ask myself, did you want to build this behemoth fitness company? Like, did you? I'm like I was 35 locations deep into our franchise before I realized that, fuck, Brett, what have you done? I don't even want to build a fitness franchise, right? I mean, who does that? Like, I've gone through the whole process of built in, everything's just going crazy. And I'm like, man, I just didn't want to, that's not where I seen myself. I was like, I see myself bigger than the fitness industry. And that's not to say the fitness industry is small, because I mean, there's a lot of people, and I've got a lot of friends in there doing extremely amazing things in coaching and helping fitness trainers. But for me, and this is again that being true to your own alignment, like I knew, it was sort of took me back to when I was an apprentice cabinet maker. I was like, I knew I wasn't supposed to be an apprentice cabinet maker. I knew I wasn't supposed to be a fitness business coach only, or a CEO, the founder of a fitness company, right? I knew there were bigger things for me for this planet, and I couldn't deny that to be the reality. So for me, my own personal focus was with the fitness business was like, let's stay back to our ethos of when we started. It was to create online products and services to serve women from all around the world. And we put so much time and effort into these other areas of the fitness business. And I'm like, geez, our core focus has sort of dissipated slightly. Now, it's not to say it wasn't going amazing, because it's an amazing part of the business. But it allowed me to get real with myself. And what happened there was, there was a death of a really good friend of mine. Crazy story, but, long story short, it normally takes me about an hour to say that story, but, I traveled back to see her after she'd just gone through chemotherapy. Everything was fantastic. And, I traveled back to go and see her. I arrive, she gets out of hospital. And basically 3 hours after I'd seen her, she passed away. It was such a crazy moment in my life. And I was like, holy crap, everything's going great. The company's amazing. You're doing this with the fitness, you're doing that. You've got your own supplement range and all these things within the fitness space. We had our own mobile app, and I was like, man, do you want to do this for the next 5 years? If you had 5 years to live, is this what you'd want to do? And I'm like, fuck, like there's no denying when you have a bit of a glitch in your own internal matrix. There was a glitch in my matrix at that spot. And what I mean by that was when something feels off or odd, or because you can't lie to yourself, you can lie to anyone else. You can put on a nice little white lie here and there, but there's no kidding yourself when you actually know. Because when you ask yourself, do you really want to do this? And in your head, you're like, no. Oh, yeah, maybe. Well, I should. No, all that justification comes out, but you've already gone home and you don't want to do it. So for me, there was this massive transition period of what do we want it to look like? How do we want it to look like? Why do we want it to look like that? And that was where I sort of allowed myself to use my skills that I'd created, not only because I guess at the time I was sort of known as the Facebook guy. I was spending millions on Facebook ads and in the fitness space. And, we had a social ecosystem of fan pages of, over 20 million people. And organically. Like I'd be speaking to people on how to build your business, and then obviously that's flipped on its head the last couple of years and moved into the pay to play space. But for me, it was really about this crossroads in my life where I had to be true to myself. I had to be true to the people I was coaching and mentoring, and for me it was expanding my own ability to serve more people, but the most importantly was to serve myself. Right now, that's super important. It's like the whole put your gas mask on first if you're in the plane crash, right? If I'm not serving myself first, then how am I supposed to serve anyone else at the ability that I know I could and should be doing? People see that as, oh no, I'd rather help others first. It's like, cool, I get it. I understand. You got a heart of gold. You're very compassionate, very empathetic, but you're missing the key ingredient. You have to serve yourself. So I could have gone and built 1,000 location franchise and built this monstrosity of a fitness company. But every day I would have been like, dude, what are you doing? Like every step closer to this big fitness business is a step further away from what I know I truly wanted to be doing. Right. Mate, it's an interesting journey, that the fitness one, but the natural progression of what generally happens if you look at the levels of the entrepreneur, let's call it, the highest level that you can get to as an entrepreneur is the level of contribution. Right. So you look at, Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos, and, I was listening to an interview this morning with Jeff Bezos about how he's created that Blue Origin, which is his space company. And this was amazing, man. I didn't realize it. So he's created Blue Origin, right? Have you heard of Blue Origin?
I haven't actually, no.
Okay, cool. So here we go. Probably most people haven't, right? They probably heard now of SpaceX. Elon Musk is paving his way to go and live on Mars. But what Blue Origin's doing is he wants to obviously create reusable rockets and so forth as well for external planetary exploration, etc. But one thing he said, and it really resonated with me, and this is the ultimate level of contribution, right? So you look at when he started Amazon, right? He piggybacked off UPS, right? So how do we get the products delivered? Well, we'll use this company. He piggybacked off all the telecommunications companies that were, providing the communication channels for everything to happen. So the infrastructure was already there. There is currently zero infrastructure for space. He wants to build the infrastructure so other companies and other people and other generations can piggyback off the infrastructure. I mean, that's fucking mind-blowing when you actually stop and think about it and go, he's not trying to make it rain, so to speak, right now in that aspect of he's trying to create future businesses and future generations of wherever this thing leads to. And I found that quite fascinating. And I don't even know how I got to that part, but it was what was I talking about?
Serve yourself first. That's where it was. It went from the serve yourself first side of things.
That's right. So we need to make sure that it's okay to serve yourself first. And if you're not in a true alignment of what you're doing, like if you're listening to this right now and you're either on your way to go train clients and you don't want to, like you're like, oh, fuck, I'm sick of getting up at 4 a.m. Change it. Don't get up at 4 a.m. Like make the decision. You might go, oh, but I need the money. Cool, I get it. But you also need your sanity, right? You've got a decision to make. Not every decision is going to be red roses and fluffy rainbows. But we need to get real. We need to become obsessed with what do you really want? What is your ultimate outcome? And what are you prepared to do? What are you prepared to go without? And who are you prepared to become in order to fulfill that? Mate, I could ramble on for hours, so you jump on in when you...
Awesome. All right. Wow. So my hand is sore just from writing all these notes here, but I've summarized the journey into many different parts that I think we can summarize to the listeners and they can get takeaways, and we'll get your 2 cents on it. So I think it all starts, a natural skill that Brett had is communication. So I was mentioning when he started in the gym, he had the gift of the gab. He was able to communicate, which in turn essentially means you're able to sell. And I think that's important for anyone. So if you're starting off and you're struggling there in your fitness business, learn to communicate, learn to sell. Would you say that's the base, Brett? Master that one, and then we move on to the next?
Look, I think communication is something that it's a skill, right? You can learn to communicate. Some of us have the uncanny natural ability to do it. What also happens in the fitness space is people over communicate, right? So it's not about how many words you can say. It's not about how many words you can say wins. It's about the quality of the word. It's the understanding of the word. It's understanding the person. It's actually giving a fuck, right? It's actually caring about the other person. So I didn't realize, like, knowing what I know about sales right now, going back to, previous conversations where I was getting clients, like, I wasn't using very good sales tactics at all, right? But what I was doing, I was communicating on a human level. So you don't need to be a master of sales or persuasion, or you just need to understand your customer and understand what they want and understand the value of being able to communicate that you know how to get them what they want.
Yes.
So I definitely think communication obviously is a massive thing that everyone should be still educating themselves, consistently and persistently for the rest of their life, because there's always a new nuance. There's always another level of understanding, because once you start learning communication, you start understanding, oh, I need to be empathetic. Well, what's empathy? Let me understand what empathy is. How could that be used? Why would it be used? Right. And that maybe that's just how my brain works. I like to try and solve problems. Right. So I see that as maybe not the classification of a problem, but it's like, well, I need to get a solution to this. Right. So communication's definitely important.
Love that. So if you listen to this, communication, something I used to suck as a communicator, but that's something I've worked on. And I think a lot of males as well. I think stereotypically or gender biased, a lot of males usually suck at communication, right? I realized that and did a lot of work there. So if you're listening to that, work on communication. The next key thing was Brett identified, hey, if I'm trading time for dollars, I can only get so far. There's a cap on that there. So if you're listening to this and you're doing the math and you're like, hold on, the only time I get paid more is if I work more. Hey, trading dollars for time, it's only going to get you so far. Then, and there's we could go all day on that. So I'll just skip over that because I think there's more. I think people get the gist behind that. The next important thing was that Brett said it's okay to want a lot of money. I'm the same. I want to be filthy rich. It's what I want in life. Different people have different passions, right? Someone's passion may be swimming. Someone's passion may be dogs. Someone's passion may be property. Someone's passion may be making money. Everyone's got their own different passion. There's nothing wrong with wanting a lot of money. So I love how you broke it down there. The flip side to that, not the flip side, but the continuation on that is if you want to make a lot of money, you got to throw more value out into the world. There's not really... there's get rich quick schemes, but usually they don't work, or you're ripping someone off and it's not a good long-term game, right? So ideally, to make more money, you got to provide more value out there. The quote that I like, I can't remember, I think it might be a Zig Ziglar quote. It's something along the lines of, you can have anything you want in life if you just help enough other people get what they want. So I love that side of things there. That's the side.
Yeah, that's
Zig Ziglar, is it? Yep, cool. So I like that side of things there. So we're talking about, hey, it's okay to want a lot of money, but if you want that, it's not just a matter of, great, I'm going to increase my rate $10. It's okay, how can I throw more value out in the world? How can I help more people, or how can I help them more? And that's essentially, if you listen to Brett's journey, that's sort of what he's done. He's like, all right, cool. At the moment, I'm just helping these people here in this specific one thing here. But hey, if I broaden my horizons, I can now not only help more people, but I can help more people with more things. And there's many different ways we can go into that. But even just from the business side, the fitness business side of things, just have a think and be like, all right, cool. How can I help more people, or how can I help them more? And that's where even just little courses come in handy there, where it's like, all right, cool. Hey, let me upskill in nutrition. Now I can help people in nutrition. I can help people more there. So I love that side of things there. It then got
one thing I'll add to that, mate, is I heard Peter Diamandis first say this. I'm sure it's been said many times, but if you want to become a billionaire, just help a billion people. And it's a pretty solid ethos to look at. And people are complaining about how much money they're making. Just go, well, what impact are you actually making?
Yeah, that's the better one. Hey, not how can I make more money? Hey, how can I help more people? And then the money will come from that. So I love that there. It then got deeper, and this is probably the my biggest takeaway from listening to this podcast here is being obsessed, and how powerful that word obsessed is, because that's actually what got me started on my journey as well. It was one of those motivational YouTube clips that I heard, and it was, I don't know, Eric Thomas or something, and he said something, the way he described it, he was like, hey, everyone half wants to be, or everyone says they want to be successful, but they don't really want to be successful. They just want to be successful. They want to be successful if they don't have to do anything about it. They don't want to be successful as much as they want to party, or they don't want to be successful as much as they want to sleep, or they don't want to be successful as much as they want to hang out with their friends, or as much as they want to Netflix. And if that's the case, you're never going to get ahead. To get ahead, you've got to do the 1% that the 99% of other people won't do. And if you listen to Brett's story, he was prioritizing his obsession over his sleep. Hey, he was getting home and he was spending those extra hours there. So if you're listening to this, a couple easy ways to, I guess, test if you're obsessed. It's like, hey, if you're going home, are you watching an hour on Netflix, or are you studying, or are you watching an hour on an online course that you're doing? Or if it's the weekend, are you going out, or are you kicking back at the beach, or are you booked into a 2-day conference, right? There's just so many little things like that. And that's the difference, right? If you want to be, I feel if you want to be really, really good at something, you've got to be obsessed with it, because there's just so many people out there in the world. And if you're not obsessed with it, you just can't get ahead. So I love that word of it there. I love that there. Another key thing as well that Brett did is he got in early. So, and I think that's when I started following you as well. I think I listened to a podcast and Brett was saying like, yeah, he was getting leads on $1 for Facebook in those days, you know? And I was like,
13 cents.
13 cents. Like I go back. Yeah, well, yeah, just to rub it in.
Those days.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, you know, I'm lucky now if I get a lead for $13. But it's like, man, if only I started. When was 2008? Did you say?
Yeah, 2009 was really when Facebook had started in 2007, but you know, I ran my first ad in 2009.
Okay, cool. I think I started running ads maybe 3 or 4 years later, you know, 2014, 2015 sort of, and it was still good.
13 it started to become a lot more mainstream.
Yeah. And like, but when I look back and I'm like, man, if I got in 5 years earlier, my business would be 10 times as big as what it is now. Because instead of getting leads for $13, I would have been getting them for 13 cents. And that's just...
Actually, let me challenge you on that. Like what? Because I think this is important, right? I want to challenge that thought process because like, Facebook changes so rapidly. Like we've got businesses that we're bringing into our digital growth agency now that they're only just starting on Facebook. And they are absolutely killing it, right? So I think the beautiful thing about social media and any paid to play advertising is that it doesn't, and this is a glimmer of hope for everyone, don't sit back and go, oh, but Brett started in the industry back then, because everything's changed. Like it's been flipped on its head. It's been put through a washing machine. It's been spun around more than that lady on the helicopter rescue video that came out yesterday. If you haven't yet seen it, my gosh. But you know, it's been flipped, right? And every time a change happens, every single person has the same advantage to be able to kickstart again and make it happen. You just the big thing is for me is because and the reason why I want to rebuttal to that point is, and I know you're coming from a good place, but it gives too many people the excuse to not fucking do anything about it because they're like, well, I didn't get in early, or I've only got 200 Instagram followers now. I'm never going to be an influencer with 1 million. It's like, man, with that attitude, you'll never have fucking nothing. You know what I mean? So the beautiful thing about it is you can start whenever, but I'll tell you what, it's better to start now than later. You know, I mean, I wrote a book called Right Now, right, for that entire reason. Just get started right now. Stop dwelling on the past that there was an opportunity or there was a lot more money. Because, I mean, I'd be sitting there crying going, why didn't I buy Apple stock? Why didn't I buy 30 properties, you know, back when I was younger, and so on and so forth. And we can dwell on it. Or we can go, cool, let's look at the landscape now. It's a level playing field. Let's see it as that. And let's go back to the second point of being obsessed about achieving it. So
yes, no, I agree with that. Sorry, I probably explained that wrong. The point I was trying to get at there was like, hey, get in now, don't wait, because there's opportunities there now. And if you wait, if you wait those 10 years, hey, it may end up not like it is now. So take the opportunity now. So I love that side of things
Agreed.
there. There was then the leverage side of things where Brett was like, okay, great. Now I've got all these people. I can't possibly help all these people in all these different locations. So how can I leverage myself? Great. I'm going to do what I'm good at here, which is generating the leads, but then I'm going to leverage out the actual training. So I'm essentially helping more people, but in that time scalable sort of things. It's like I'm traveling here and training that person, and I'm traveling here and training that person. How can I leverage myself so I'm doing what I'm good at, but then I'm helping people over there, and I'm also making an income from that side of things there, which I think is important there. There was just a quick note I wrote, which is surveying your audience, which I haven't done a lot of recently. So that's one thing I'm going to jump on ASAP and survey my audience, which I like. And
Mate, I started 2 businesses out of a survey. Like, that's how we started our overseas retreats, because we wanted to see if people were interested in it.
yeah.
So survey your audience. I'm telling you.
Oh, well, I'm going to do it the second I get off this podcast. And then the last biggest takeaway I got was it's a mixture of community and influence. So the word influencer gets thrown around a lot these days, right? Where if you've got X amount of followers, you're now an influencer. But I feel influence is more, as Brett said, not that he would do it, but hey, he could have sold fitness toothpicks because he's got that influence and he did it via building that community there. So if you're listening to this and you're like, great, I want to be a fitness influencer, let me just take photos of my shirt off and get heaps of followers on Instagram, like it's only going to get you so far. And there was actually, you might have seen this. Did you see the article the other day? There was a fitness influencer, I think she had 1 million followers, and she tried to sell some clothing apparel and she sold like 30 of them for $30. Did you see that? Yeah.
Not surprising.
Yeah.
There's
yeah.
980,000 fake followers, but anyway.
Exactly.
Another story.
Well, that's that was my summary from your take there, Brett. I know you've got another podcast coming up here, so we've got to let you go soon. Just before I leave you to it, if somebody's like, man, this guy's amazing, I want to follow him, I want to hear more about him, where's the best place to follow you? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? Is it one of these million business pages you've got? What's the best?
Yeah, look, I guess the best place is you can just reach out to me on either Facebook, Instagram. So just search my name, Brett Campbell. Instagram is Brett Campbell Official. But head over to brettcampbell.net. You should be able to find a link to anywhere there and to be able to get a hold of me if you really want to. So yeah, mate, that's I'll be hanging out on those socials.
Awesome. I'll put those links in the show notes as well. Just before I leave you to it, Brett, is there anything I forgot? Anything I should have mentioned that didn't, or anything you want to leave us with?
You know what's funny? I've been doing a lot more podcasts of late. So the last 2 years I've been in the trenches just building the business and been declining podcast after podcast after podcast. And actually found out I really miss it. So I love doing this. And I was driving into the office today and I was like, I haven't yet been asked the question of, is there anything else that I should have asked you?
Ooh.
I haven't been asked, well, obviously you haven't been asked that for a while, but I know that's always a thought-provoking question. So I've actually already had some time to think about this morning because I was like, next time someone asks me this, I'm going to give them this answer. And the question is, are you okay? Right? And I say that because I feel like we live in a world where everything's so fast and so chaotic that not a lot of people take the time from a sincerity perspective. Because it's easy to go, oh, how are you? Yeah, good. You know, how's business? Yeah, great. Oh, how's life? Yeah, good. You know, and it's just very like traffic, bing, 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 just shooting on past each other. I think if we could all get into, more of an intentional routine of asking people more often, are they okay? You know, how are you okay? How's everything going? Like, and sincerely, I think that's such a powerful question that needs to be asked more, because it's almost like if someone sincerely asks it, a lot of people's feeling towards that is, why should there be? Is there something wrong? Do I look bad, or is there something going on? Right, and I think it's sort of this closed off conversation. But mate, you forgot to ask me if I'm okay.
You're true, Brett. Sincerely, are you okay?
Mate, I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for asking. I am actually, and I'd tell you if I wasn't. But mate, this has been an absolute pleasure. Love the conversation. Appreciate the love that you've provided and been following me for some time. And mate, I look forward to continuing the dialogue and the conversation and seeing all the magic that you're producing out there into the world as well, mate.
Awesome. All right, Brett. Well, it was great to have you. I'll let you go to your next podcast.
Mm-hmm. Legend.